shared at the time with husband Russell, daughter Samantha, Neil's mother, and Russell's mistress, Patricia. Despite her body never being found, Russell Causley was convicted of her murder in 2004 following 2 trials. Neil and his family continue to be haunted by the fact that his grandfathers refused to admit where Carol's remains are and were horrified to learn that he's to be considered for parole again.
What's difficult about this is a recurring issue, and every year, every 12 months, we have to go through the same process once again, where we have to put our argument across as to why my grandfather shouldn't be released. I think it's very, very clear that, you know, we've suffered now for 32 years as a family. When's this going to stop? You know, this isn't right, and I think that my grandfather, once again, is just playing another game, just to be able to assert his control over us as a family. It's terrible.
Neil and his family are strong supporters of the campaign known as Helen's Law, which calls for legislation meaning convicted murderers won't be considered for parole if they haven't disclosed where their victim's body is. And they're worried that Causley's being considered for release before such a law's been introduced.
You know, there's this massive, misconception out there that killers have to admit and show guilt and remorse to be released from their sentence. That is not correct. Killers have been released in the United Kingdom from their sentence early without admitting ever to the location of the whereabouts of the body. So, you know, my grandfather, and this is a direct plea to him, is that ultimately, you know, we can do a fair trade here. You give us closure, allow us to move on with our lives, you move on with your life, and by all means, I don't care what you do, just let us have closure and move on with this chapter. You know, there is no doubt whatsoever that he is the killer, and he keeps on playing games. He's admitted to the murder, he's retracted that statement, he now says that he's a miscarriage of justice. Make up your mind, Russell, what is it?
Martin Dowse, ITV News, Bournemouth.
Ferries and trains were cancelled and roads were closed today when a £500 World War II bomb was dredged up in Portsmouth Harbour.
When this German device was discovered in the early hours, people living near the harbour were told to stay indoors, stay away from walls and open their windows.
And this is the moment the bomb was detonated after being towed away from the harbour by the Navy's bomb disposal team. Well, earlier I spoke to Captain Roger Redwin, who safely oversaw the operation. Captain Redwin, thanks very much for joining us. How potentially dangerous was this unexploded bomb?
So the Royal Navy clearance divers are highly trained and are well practiced. They're current and competent in dealing with historic unexploded ordnance, as indeed the ordnance was this morning here in Portsmouth. So of course it's dangerous, but it's the way the individuals, our Royal Navy bomb disposal teams, have been trained, which make it safe for them to deal with and utterly reduce the risk to the public.
One of the recommendations was for people living nearby to open their windows. Why do you give that advice?
So that advice in terms of opening windows and staying outside the cordon is a precautionary measure. If in the unlikely event the munition had exploded, then with windows open, then that would have reduced the risk of shattering glass in the area. But I just want to reiterate that actually the likelihood of an explosion was very low indeed, predominantly because our Royal Navy bomb disposal teams are well trained. This is not new activity. We've been doing this for a long time. They're safe, they understand the risks, and they mitigate them very, very well.
So tell us what the bomb disposal team actually do then. I mean, how do you make a £500 bomb safe? There have got to be risks, haven't there?
Yeah, absolutely. There is risk in bomb disposal. Notwithstanding the professional training that the Royal Navy provide through the joint service community, the most important thing is to move it out of the local areas as quickly and safely as possible. And indeed, that's what the team did this morning when they arrived. They attached a big floating device, which in essence lifted the airdrop bomb off the seabed, and then very slowly but steadily towed that bomb out to sea, out to a designated area in the Eastern Solent, where a controlled explosion was conducted at 11 o'clock this morning.
A job well done, Captain Roger Redwin. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
In other news, the Air Accident Investigation Branch will release its official report into the Shoreham air crash early next month. 11 local men were killed and 16 others were injured when a vintage jet crashed in August 2015. The findings are likely to have a major impact on future air shows. The final report will be published on March the 3rd.
Southern rail commuters in Sussex, Surrey and Hampshire faced more disruption today as another strike began. Members of the RMT union have walked out until midnight tonight. Southern said it expects 75% of services to run. It's the RMT's 29th day of action in their dispute over driver-only trains. Meanwhile, a strike on the London Underground has also caused major disruption.
People living in Poole will pay almost 5% more in council tax from April. Councillors have agreed a 4.99% rise. They say it's to help fund adult social care and maintain frontline services. It means residents in Poole will pay on average an extra £62 a year.
Meanwhile, in Brighton and Hove, councillors will decide tomorrow how to save more than £20 million from its budget this year.
Services for young people are particularly at risk, but are the cutbacks necessary and what effect will they have? Here's Malcolm Shaw.
Services like this skateboard park help to keep young people active, off the streets and out of trouble. It's housed inside the Brighton Youth Centre, one of a range of activities that are run here. But now the centre stands to lose around 25% of its funding as the City Council tries to balance its books.
We've got a history of almost 100 years of delivery, and we want to be open as much as possible. And this cut comes alongside some other funding that's also, funding has got tighter, so it's going to make it difficult for us to provide the variety of programme and the amount of time that we're open.
Across the city, youth services face a total loss of around £700,000. The cuts will threaten the future of 8 charities and groups in the city which make up the Youth Collective. They'll only be able to offer a fraction of the services they do now unless they can find money from somewhere else. The City Council says it has no choice but to make savings of £21 million from its budget this year as financial support from central government dries up.
The City Council, historically, about a third of its funding has come from government grants, what's called the Revenue Support Grant. There was about £100 million in 2010. By 2019, it will have reduced to nothing.
But opposition parties say youth services can be protected by making savings elsewhere. The Greens want to increase fees for things like property searches and building control inspections. The Tories want to cut some allowances for councillors and remove discounts on parking permits for diesel cars.
The youth service budget is incredibly valuable for young people in the city. It's very preventative, so it stops young people getting into trouble. It's preventative with respect to mental health, and it helps keep families together. So in many respects, it actually saves money rather than costs money.
This is my 33rd year dealing in local authorities and the budgets and annually every year, and this is far the worst, and it's going to get worse.
Council tax in the city is set to rise by almost 5% this year, an extra £70 on the average bill. The budget proposals will be thrashed out at a meeting in Hove Town Hall tomorrow. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News.
You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Thank you for choosing us. Coming up.
Moving with the times, the changing shape of caravanning in this country, a business that's booming.
For more on all of our stories, head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, call us or get in touch via Facebook, or you can send us a tweet. The address is @ITV Meridian. Now the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
The children's author killed by her fiancé. A jury finds Ian Stewart guilty of murdering Helen Bailey. Now police say they will re-examine the death of his first wife. The 18-month-old girl murdered by her guardian who'd become almost invisible to the authorities. And Princess Diana's iconic dresses go on public display at Kensington Palace. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
We will, thank you very much indeed. Now, when Britain voted to leave the EU last summer, the membership of the National Farmers Union, rather like the rest of the country, was fairly split roughly down the middle when it came to what they thought was best for their industry.
Well, their first national conference since the vote ended today with the Rural Affairs Secretary Andrea Leadsom promising she would fight to get farmers a good deal. With more, here's Callum Watkinson.
The first spring lambs of a post-Brexit Britain. And farmers are anxious to know exactly what kind of a deal their government will deliver. Whether they are being paid subsidies by it, selling food into it or sourcing seasonal labour from it, it's hard to imagine an industry more dependent on the EU.
And I was pleased to see that under the leadership of Peter Kennedy...
Farmers were hoping for specifics from the head of DEFRA at their conference. Her speech sought to reassure, though it was a little woolly on the details.
And I will fight to get you the best deal at home, in Brussels and around the world.
Such sentiments were welcomed by farmers like Duncan Hawley. He wants the government to consult with his industry before negotiations begin.
I'd like them to sit down with us and say, right, this is what we propose to do in the future to help farmers. We need certainty, which obviously we haven't got at the moment. We have got it to a degree that they're saying that we will get the single farm payment until 2020.
And such subsidies do account for 70% of some farmers' business, while a similar percentage of all agricultural exports are sold in Europe.
So I don't have final answers today.
Of immediate concern, though, is a shortage of seasonal workers caused by the falling pound. There was dark talk today of produce rotting in the fields without urgent action to replace them.
The issue of migrant workforce, temporary or permanent workforce, is obviously something that's a cross-government issue. It's led by the Home Office. We are feeding into it. We're taking soundings from the NFU and from farm groups and other stakeholders, including food processors and so on, as to what their needs are.
I think in fairness to her, she can't promise. She doesn't know what she's able to promise. I just hope that we have the support when it comes to it.
A trade deal for agriculture is vital to make sure that we have success, and therefore again when we're looking at policy we need to make sure that the trade deal is done first and then we'll look at policy after it.
We've got to live on certainty, we can't live on guesses, and we're not getting it.
Mrs Leadsom called Brexit a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reform the farming industry. But that industry says it needs a favourable trade deal and lots of migrant workers. In today's political climate, plenty there for the Secretary of State to chew over. Callum Watkinson, ITV News.
Now, street parties have become more of a common sight in recent times. Last year, hundreds were held across the region, like this one in Portsmouth, to celebrate the Queen's 90th birthday. And back in 2012, to mark Her Majesty's Diamond Jubilee, like here in West Berkshire.
And this June, neighbours are being encouraged to get together again, this time to remember the Labour MP Jo Cox, killed, of course, outside her constituency office last year by a far-right extremist.
Well, today, her husband launched the Great Get Together, a UK-wide event that it's hoped will see communities unite. Our reporter Lauren Hall was at today's launch.
We are far more united and have far more in common than that which divides us.
It was those words spoken by Jo Cox which inspired the Great Get Together. A plan to unite communities this summer with street parties, picnics, even bake-offs. The idea came from Jo's widower, who today attended a special launch event at Clarence House, hosted by the Duchess of Cornwall.
Well, I hope that wherever Jo is now, she'll be looking down proudly, seeing what a wonderful job you were doing.
Thank you very much.
The Labour MP and mother of two was murdered outside her constituency office last summer. The Great Get-Together will be held around the anniversary of her death, over the weekend of the 17th and 18th of June.
Jo would have loved it. She loved parties, she loved community. The reason we live where we are is because it's such a close community. And so this would have been exactly the way that she would want to be remembered.
The event is being run in conjunction with the Big Lunch, a community event which takes place every year. The idea is to bring people together and celebrate diversity.
We live in a time where there's so much kind of division, and what we do know is that when people do come together, communities get stronger, people feel happier. And there's got to be a time where we put some of this division behind us.
It's expected to be the biggest event of its kind since the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. For those planning a street party or a community bake-off, how's this for inspiration? A cupcake icing masterclass with the Duchess herself.
Mr. Whippy's special.
Doing quite nicely here.
Ably assisted by celebrity chef Jamie Oliver.
I, like most people, were affected by Joe's death, and I think a year on, this is an opportunity to turn a terrible negative into a positive. And actually, I think the country, everyone seems to be so excited about it. Everyone's joining in.
Organisers hope as many as 10 million people will get involved. A fitting tribute to a woman determined to bring communities together. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
It is a great idea, and if you want to find out how you can get involved in the Great Get Together, the details are on our website.
Very good idea indeed. Now the sport with Andrew Pate. Andrew, I find it hard to believe that a pie or a pasty is making all the national and local headlines. It's extraordinary.
Oh, it really is, isn't it? But the pie just rumbles on. You're right. A petition's been launched to reinstate non-league goalkeeper Wayne Shaw. He resigned from Sutton United over Piegate, and already more than 5,000 people have signed that petition. The former Eastleigh stopper from Totton near Southampton was filmed eating a pie on the substitutes bench 10 minutes from the end of their FA Cup match with Arsenal. He resigned last night after the Betting Commission launched an investigation. When it came to light, there was an 8-1 bet on offer. His Sutton United manager says Wayne didn't make money from Piegate, but the club will be helping those looking into the incident.
We understand there was 2,000 bets on the bet itself. We're going to be furnished with those names of the people that have bet, and you know, sincerely hope, and I know actually, that none of them will be related to the team or the management, but yeah, it's something which we're going to be investigated on, and as I said, I just hope there's nothing else that's due to come out of this.
Eastleigh have sacked manager Martin Allen after just 14 matches. The former Portsmouth player only picked up 1 win during that time. Eastleigh will now be looking for their 4th manager this season. In last night's football, Reading lost out at promotion rivals Huddersfield, which means they stay in 4th place in the Championship. On Saturday, they go to Brighton. Yesterday, they had goalkeeper Ali Al-Habsi to thank for a first-half penalty save. But 8 minutes from time, their resistance was broken by Philip Billing to end the Royals' 6-match unbeaten run. Oxford United put their FA Cup exit behind them to push themselves further up the League One table, their win at Charlton lifting them to 10th. Everton loanee Colin McElhaney with the only goal. As you'll see, it's quite a cracker, and that keeps alive their playoff hopes. The Godolphin Studs and Stable Staff Awards recognise those behind the scenes. And I'm delighted to say our region scooped several prizes, including the biggest of all. Penny Sylvester was there to bring us this.
Time for an early bath. Selco, sponsoring ITV Meridian Sports Report.
At a glittering ceremony in London's West End, the top prize, Employee of the Year, was announced.
Terry Doherty.
Terry Doherty works at Watership Downstud near Newbury. He picked up a cheque for £40,000, half of which will be shared amongst the staff at the stud.
We're a team. We are a team. We have to be a team. That's how we work. And so the team deserve the recognition as much as I do.
Assistant trainer Rory O'Dowd, who's based with Brian Meehan at Manton near Marlborough, collected the Leadership Award.
Very humbling, very exciting, very proud of what I've been awarded of tonight. Without all the team at home, I wouldn't have won this anyway, so it's for them as well as me.
And stable hand Jamie Bunsell punched the air when his name was announced as winner of the Work Rider category. He's in Paul Henderson's yard near Fordingbridge.
Well, being a small team, my contribution is quite big, you know. There's only 4 of us that work there, but we're 4 dedicated people that work there.
3 winners of awards that celebrate the work that goes on behind the scenes at racing yards up and down the country. Penny Sylvester, ITV News, London.
Well done to one and all.
And well done to most of our football teams, especially Brighton and Reading, who of course meet on Saturday, both going for the Premier League. What a crucial game that's going to be, isn't it?
Oh, it really is, yep. Saturday, 5:30. Say Reading, they had that 6-match unbeaten run, just ended last night, but did so well at Huddersfield. But you just can't bet against Brighton, can you? I think Brighton are going to automatically, and it could be a decisive week for them.
And Reading could go up via the playoffs.
That's what we're hoping.
Marvellous. 4 teams in the Premier Division. Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew.
Now, thousands of people flock to the south every year to go camping, whether it's to pitch a tent among the horses in the New Forest or caravan along the coast at West Bay.
Yes, family camping holidays are growing in popularity, helped by a rise in glamping sites. It's often seen as a cheaper way to have a break.
But not if you buy one of the latest caravans. The industry is big business, and that's why every year keen campers from our region make their way to Birmingham for the annual event showcasing the latest vehicles. We sent Kevin Ashford to have a look.
People like this extra space that you get.
We've gone a bit caravan crazy in this country, it seems. Demand for them is up, which is good news for companies like this one that make them.
Wide range of people like caravanning, families with young kids, especially when you look at the cost of hotels. People just like that element of adventure, getting away and being quite spontaneous. And I think we're kind of shaking off the image that it is a bit old-fashioned. We've all been caravanning when we were kids, but look how much the caravans have come on.
Now, we British have always loved our caravans and motorhomes, and more of us are expected to own one in the future. In fact, 20% more of us over the next decade or so. And that means it'll be an industry worth more than £3.5 billion.
What do you like about caravans?
Flexibility to do your own thing, I'd say. Go where you want, go to places you haven't been before.
You can take it here, there, everywhere, wherever you want. It's you've got your own little home with you.
We've always done it since we were teenagers, haven't we? Yeah. Camping, and then progressed when we could afford a caravan, and then when the boys were small we had a small motorhome, and now there's 2 of us, we've got a big one.
The trends are all showing that this is becoming more popular. We've seen last year alone 11.4% increase on caravans, motorhomes and caravan holiday homes. We're also seeing that more people are looking to holiday in the UK and opt for staycations rather than long European holidays.
Over the years there have been innovations in the industry. These days though, there's no sense of roughing it.
Well, the principle's still basically the same, but the fact is now, of course, you've got all your home comforts, and each year there's always more being added. I mean, back in the 80s, double glazing, mains electrics and blown air heating all came to the fore in most caravans that were manufactured. Now it's commonplace in every caravan, so a caravan really is a home from home.
The Camping and Caravan Show runs until Sunday. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Well, holidaymakers heading to the coast this summer might be pleased to hear that our region has the best beach in the country.
And it's Weymouth. The 3-mile stretch of sand was rated top by travellers on TripAdvisor. It also came 9th in the whole of Europe. Other beaches that made the top 10 in the UK were Bournemouth and Hengistbury Head in Dorset.
Well done to all. Life for Barry the lamb didn't start off that well after his mum rejected him as a newborn.
But things started to pick up when he was hand-reared at the home of a sheep breeder in Fordingbridge.
Yes, and as Emma Wilkinson now reports, he certainly made himself at home with the family dogs already living there.
That's it, honey. Good boy. That's it then. In we come.
Meet Barry. He looks like a lamb, sounds like a lamb, but he has a canine alter ego. Since being rejected by his mum 4 weeks ago, he's been hand-reared by rare sheep breeder Emma Childs, and living alongside the family's 6 rescue dogs has had an interesting effect on his behaviour.
Well, he comes when you call him. He comes to his name. He follows me. He'll follow me around the house. If I go upstairs, he'll try and come upstairs because dogs come upstairs with me, he'll try and climb the stairs. If he has his bottle, he loves his bottle and he wags his tail. And, you see him pawing his bed and before he settles down, that sort of dog trait as well. He's not barking or anything yet, so he hasn't taken that on board.
Barry is a Valais black nose, a rare breed that was only introduced to the UK from the Swiss Alps 3 years ago. At the moment, he's quite content with his current identity, but Emma is trying to integrate him back in with the rest of the flock.
He does actually sleep outside now, and they've accepted him fine, and he sleeps out there, and he'll come in for a bottle, or else I'll take a bottle out there for him, because it's important to get him back out with the flock and being what he is, which is a lamb.
So Barry will soon have to get used to his new home amongst his own kind. But for now at least, he's happy as Larry, snuggled up by the stove in his dog bed. Emma Wilkinson, ITV News, Fordingbridge.
He is rather lovely, isn't he?
He's cute, and he's had a hair wash, hasn't he? Yeah, really fluffy.
Not quite so lovely, I suspect, will be Storm Doris, which is heading our way. Let's hear the worst now. Lucy Verisami.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
A very good evening to you. Well, some exceptionally windy weather working its way in the coming 24 hours. A deep area of low pressure, the latest storm system to be named by the Met Office as Doris, will be sweeping its way onto our shores and will bear the brunt of its strongest winds through the course of tomorrow. Those winds likely to peak through tomorrow morning and the early stages of the afternoon. By then, well, we could well see gales, damaging gusts of wind in excess of 50 to 60 miles an hour through our neck of the woods, as well as the chance of some bumpy flights and some pretty choppy ferry crossings as well, I should imagine. As for the next few hours, well, we're going to see some wet weather work its way in, brought in on those blustery winds, a bit of a soggy setup for some of us. With the cloud, with the rain, temperatures will be capped, nowhere near as cold as it could be this time of year. Certainly no problems with any frost, but the big story will be those strengthening winds as we go through the small hours. Howling winds could wake some of us up before dawn, I should think. And as they gain a bit of pace, well, they'll be blowing through a good deal of wet weather through the morning rush hour, soaking for a short time, moving through quite quickly on those winds, and then drier, brighter conditions through the afternoon. The first time many of us will see sunshine for quite a while. Blue skies set to return, but temperatures a little more modest than what we've seen of late. Nowhere near as mild as it was earlier in the week. Much colder feel out there. And of course staying notably windy. Strong gusts of wind could well be damaging and could well bring some disruption through the course of the day. Into Friday, drier, calmer, a little brighter. And into the weekend, well, we keep a lot of cloud, but not quite as chilly as it'll feel tomorrow. See you soon.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, at least it gets better by Friday, but not good tomorrow.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Now, in just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Stacey's got Alec News, so do join her if you possibly can. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks for watching. Take care. Beware of Doris. Bye-bye.
Nice.